I'm like, what color, like what does its hair look like, you know? So it had like a blonde bob cut and it had blue eyes and there was like light coming out of its eyes, but it was surrounded like all around it, its aura, like it didn't have light coming off of it. It had blackness coming off of it, darkness. And around its face was only lit up by the blue light coming out of its eyes, right? And
Wow.
it showed itself to look like a child. I don't know what gender, but it was like this close to my face. And it's like, can I please, like, I've been with you ever since you were a child. Can I please just reattach? Can I be with you? And I'm like,
Okay. So there's something so special about your experience. Like, I don't know, I don't know if it's special just overall, and I think it is. But for me, it's like I feel like you're actually jogging some memories in a way. Like something about it seems very familiar, you know?
mm-hmm.
And I like the fact, and I think I'll mention it later, but you did mention in another podcast that there was another woman who had an NDE and she mentioned these beings on the moon.
Yeah, I forgot her name, but she was like, I think she was Australian. Sorry, now you got me all excited. She was Australian and she saw three of them, but it wasn't, I don't think it was on the moon. For her, she saw them, but she saw them in like a building. And she was like, I went through a church and then I saw these three big beings and they wanted me to look in a chest, so it's like whatever, I think they like manifest these things to put you at ease and to help you transition and go through this experience.
I'm glad you mentioned that because what that was one of the questions that I had is like, how much of it do you think was them just kind of manifesting and creating a visual around you? Because one of the things I've noticed in a lot of these stories is that there are always three beings, you know?
Oh,
Um,
really?
yes, always three beings. And it also coincides a little scarily to like, extraterrestrial visitations because there's usually
Right.
three of those as well. But usually three beings, and then one of them is usually the one interacting while the other two stay to the back. This happens so
Really?
often, it's like unreal. So yes, so
Ah,
definitely something there. Um, but I love your story because first off, okay, so two things, because I got to figure out what I'm going to take out and what I'm going to share with the world. Because you and I
right, right.
clearly are on the same wavelength. But one of the things I notice is that just because you're like, oh God, I'm like burping, I'm sorry, excuse me, whatever. But sadly enough, I'm doing the same thing here too, because one of my guests, I'll just tell you this, one of my guests, and I've read this elsewhere because I actually did some research, said that when spirits are kind of like in this space, I guess is the best way to explain it, you
Uh-huh.
tend to have more more gas. Like you intend to be burping and stuff like that, you know?
Really?
Yes.
Oh my
So just
gosh.
so just keep that in mind because I should not have been doing that either. And I'm just like, what's happening? Like I just have
Yeah,
water.
like, did I eat that apple too quick?
So there's certain things that they do like that produce even if you read the Law of One, the raw material. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever
Oh, I have that on my bookshelf.
I hope you've read
Like,
it. Have you read
oh,
it?
I not yet.
It is difficult, but start to go through it. You're gonna be like shocked by some of it. And definitely by the ending. Definitely by the ending.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they mentioned during their, like, I guess the channeling that they did there is that at one point she was using the bathroom a lot, like she was urinating a lot. And they asked, like, what's happening? Like, this seems very weird because it's happening around the time that we're doing these channels. And they said that's one of the effects of their being in the vicinity, like them being in their space creates more uric, I don't know if it's uric acid or acid or something like that, but it would make her have to use the bathroom very frequently. So a lot of just weird things that we don't know about, we just assume it's just natural human stuff happening, and it's just the other.
They're interacting
um,
with us,
yes.
just like we think our inner thoughts are our thoughts, but really, oh yeah, that's something. Yeah, you said you would remember things when we start asking questions, and here I am remembering. I remember when I was telling my parents about it, I was like, well, Dad, do you remember? Did you notice that I was around you? I gave you a hug. And he was like, well, I did sense that something was around me, and I thought you were, and I started thinking about you. And he's like, I felt very peaceful and I felt relaxed all of a sudden. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange
That
because
is
he wasn't thinking peaceful thoughts. So I'm
awesome.
like, oh my gosh, I interacted with you in spirit, you know?
That is awesome. I want people, like, if there's any people who are listening to this and they're either still grieving or just, they're thinking about somebody who passed, like, I mean, you did pass. Like, you were
Yeah.
kind of officially a ghost at that moment, right? So you coming and trying to hug your loved one, it made him think of you. And this happens to us a lot when we think about those that have passed. And then you
Right.
actually kind of felt like, wait, like he said your name. Like, he really felt like you were there. But he's just like, okay, I don't see her, and he went back to what he was doing, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome. That confirms that, they really can visit us and interact with us. We just don't know it because we can't see them, you know.
Absolutely.
Um, so I mean, and the other thing about your story that, like, I mean, I listen to NDEs all the time, and like, while I'm very empathic, there's another part of me that's also, I'm a weirdo, I'm a Gemini, but another part that's not that, is just a little stronger, a lot stronger, because I'm from New York originally. You have to be stronger, right? So
Oh yeah,
another part
right.
that's
My gosh, no way.
another part that's much stronger, but I literally almost start crying when I hear your NDE because yeah, I know, but it's because I just think about this little cute little 10-year-old girl,
I know.
right?
I have the same
Who,
face, believe it or not. I look 30 on a 10-year-old body. I could show you childhood pictures.
this little 10-year-old girl who is like, went out of her way to help a bunch of quote unquote animals. Like, it's not even like it's like, oh, our favorite dog, Fluffy or whatever. Like, you're going out to take care of cattle and pigs and things that people kind of just think beasts of burden and not really, this is our moneymaker or whatever. So
Right.
that level of empathy and just, compassion is just off the charts and beautiful. But
Right.
if
Where
you
did it
just
go? No,
oh, but
I know.
but that whole story, like that story, if you decided not to come back, it's just this little girl who went out in the middle of the cold in Wisconsin and died of hypothermia.
Right.
And that's like that would literally be a tragedy. Like, that's like, what? Like, oh my
I
gosh.
know. My parents would feel awful. And that's like one of the other things too. I'm like, I can't let them think that they just let me die.
Mm,
It felt wrong, and they're like, well, you're gonna suffer going back and it's gonna be rough, but I don't care. Like I need to go back. There's still
yeah.
stuff I want to do.
And that's another level of that, being a true hero, is that you even thought about it like, okay, how are they gonna feel about me being gone? And it's kind of, not to say their fault, but they could have, did some things a little differently,
They could have watched
so.
me get dressed. Good grief.
And I understand. I'm one of like 9 or 10, or if I gave up count, whatever. So I understand when you're just like, hey, you number 5, come here.
Oh wow. Yeah, right? Exactly. We're just kind of like numbers at that point.
I understand that, they get so busy that they really can't. They literally, it just gets a point where they're like, okay, look, I gotta feed them, clothe them. What are you telling me? Go away.
Bare necessities. Simple bare necessities. If they're
um,
living, they're fine, right? Yeah.
yes, yes. So and it helps though, because like you said, we're here to kind of experience what we're not, you know.
Hmm.
Not to say that everything should just go completely to hell on this planet, because please, let's get better people. But it's
Hmm.
not. We know when we come here. I'm assuming that it's not going to be a walk in the park, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and then the goal is to get better. So like, anything that you saw that, and we just can't judge our parents, period. When it comes to some extent, we can't, it's like we see the bad and we say, okay, like, just like the angel said to you, or the being said to you, what did you learn from it, from the
Hmm.
bad parts? What did you learn? And are you getting better? Are you treating your children in a better manner? Like, are you learning from that mistake and then making it better for the next generation? And that's all we could ever
Hmm.
do.
Always identify with the good. That's a lesson. That's one that learned. And that's something because my dad died when I was, how old was I? I was 16. I had just given birth to my daughter. I know I was a teen parent, but I came back with the intention of wanting to have a family and create a loving
Mhm.
family. And so, well, there you go. I started at 16.
Mhm.
um, but
Now, wait,
it
which father?
was
Your birth father, or the mhm.
my birth, my, no, I'm sorry. My birth dad, for all I know, he's probably still alive.
Okay.
Um,
The one
but
who raised you, your
the
father,
one who
father.
raised
Okay.
me, yeah.
Okay.
So he died when I was 16. It was several months after I had just had a kid. And that was huge a tragedy. That was like my first panic attack. That was not fun. Because I found him and everything. It was just, oh my gosh, I have to take care of this, and I don't know how to take care of a dying body. And the helicopter didn't land fast enough. Like I had nightmares and stuff about it. Oh, it was awful. But I
Oh.
got to see, and I know, I got to see his spirit in a dream tell me where his will is, right? And so obviously we know that dreams, if you've had prophetic, however you say it, dreams that tell the future. I called them future dreams when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Because after my NDE, I started having precognitive dreams, and I saw as far as 9 years into the future so far. And there's one more dream that is yet to come true. And I'm like, I think that's the furthest I've ever seen into the future. And I know that that's going to come true. I don't know when and or how, because right now it seems impossible, but
Mhm.
I know it's going to happen. But anyway, when it does, I'm going to be like, ah, wow, see, I'll never cease to be amazed. But anyway,
Mhm.
um, so dreams are more than just our brain going through things throughout the day and being like this and then the other thing. Let me figure, maybe I shouldn't have eaten that fish. But sorry, um, my point is that when my dad died, I got to see his spirit, once in a while as an earthbound entity because clearly he's not happy with, you know, things that he did, and he is embarrassed to go to the light and see, and talk to them. Just like how, remember when I was like, well, I am not worthy to be in your presence, and I got pulled back, or just the thought of I'm unworthy to be in your presence, and I ran from, or I started to run from them. I assume that's what my dad's spirit did. And um, I remember I had this dream where he was like pushing me back, and I was trying to say, please identify with your good, and he's like, I'm being tormented by, these entities that are following me around. They followed me in life, they follow me now. And he's like, and he like, you could see that had like teary eyes, and he was like, I'm so sorry. I can't apologize to you kids. And he's like, what? I don't deserve anything good. And like all this stuff. And I'm like, yes, you do. What are you talking about? That wasn't you. That's them influencing you. And you thought that that was you. You thought that was your inner voice. And you thought those were your thoughts. Those weren't your thoughts. That wasn't your true inner voice. That was negative spirits confusing you and tormenting you, because that's what they love to do. Some people, they die and they become these spirits. And sometimes I'm not sure if they're even human, some of these spirits. I don't know. I have no idea how it works. But I know that some spirits just really love to torture people. And they tortured my dad really, really bad. He had an awful childhood himself. And I think that that's when these negative entities decided, oh, I have an opening and I have a victim that I can claim. And so in the dream, he's in so much pain, or emotionally, and I can feel it, and I'm being like held back by his energy. I can't get closer to him. And I just keep repeating, please identify with your good. I forgive you and I love you. And then finally, I feel like he stopped pushing me back, and I immediately get pulled over to him, and I kind of hold his head in my hand, in my, energetic hands. And I'm like, you're safe. I love you. The kids will understand someday, when they die and they have this experience with the light, they'll understand what happened. And um you need to go to the light, and you need to do other stuff. And then I stopped, after that dream, I stopped seeing his spirit. um and I stopped having dreams about him, and it was just so healing. And I know that dreams are really important, and I've astral projected before, and I learned not to do that anymore because I learned how dangerous
Really?
it can be. Yeah, that was not fun. Because I've also had out of body experiences, and I thought I wanted to learn how to astral project only because I was like, well, if I can astral project, maybe I can like heal my body, or I can heal other people if I'm astral projecting, or like I can just get more intuition, or I can have a better
Yeah.
feel for things. Maybe I can use it for good, is what I thought. But
Mhm.
then, and then I also had the thought, well, if I learn to astral project, that means my spirit can move my body, and I can like go and talk to these light beings again and ask them more questions so that I have a
Yeah.
more clear answer rather than just meditation and talking to them.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, my astral projection, my very last one, um, I get out of my body, and I see that there's like this shadow person in the room watching my son and I sleep. And it really wants to talk to me, but I'm like, nope, I'm busy. I have to go talk to the light spirits again, and I don't have any time to talk to you, and we're not going to talk right now. Not right now. No, 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 no. And so it like was kind of held back because I didn't have the intention to talk to it. I feel kind of bad because maybe, but it didn't look like a good spirit.
Feel bad?
And
Are you kidding me? That's something you don't feel bad about. Don't worry about any forgiveness there.
I know. I'm like, it's probably wreaking havoc on my life, and my son is
Yes, and
also
you're like,
having
I'm
emotional
sorry.
problems. So it's
I'm
like,
sorry. He's like, do you know what I'm doing to you all day?
yeah, right. I'm like, yeah, like he's watching me, like that thing is watching me sleep, and I mean, that's not okay. But so I go into the living room, and then I'm like, light being, like I need to talk to you. I need to ask you questions, and then it pops up in my living room, and I'm like, oh, there you are. Like, whoa, that was fast. And it's like, go back to your body. And I'm like, what? No, you just got here. I need to ask you a bunch of questions now that we finally have contact again. It's like, no, go back to your body. And I'm like, but I have so many questions. I need to ask you these questions because this is why I'm astral projecting, because I need to ask you these questions. I'm just so insistent. And it's like, all of your questions will be answered. Trust the process. Keep talking with us, keep the lines of communication open. You need to just trust that all good that is supposed to happen will happen. Just trust. Go back to your body. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going back to my body, because like, who am I to argue with this celestial being of whatever it is, that knows what it's doing, that knows way more than me, has a lot more wisdom. And I'm like, all right, fine. And so I do. And then I go back to my body and I'm hovering over my body and my son, and I'm looking at us. And I notice that negative, dark entity, isn't in the room anymore. And I take note because I'm like, oh, well, the light being came into my living room. Maybe that like negative entity like fled because it was afraid of the light.
Yeah, probably.
Right, right. And so I like so I'm happy with that. I'm happy it's gone. And so I'm looking at my body and I can recognize my body. So I know that I'm astral projecting when I can recognize my body. Because during the near-death experience, I remember there was a point that I did actually return to my bedroom just to like be like, I kind of want to play toys, and then I get there and I'm like, nah, I don't really want to play toys. Never mind, And that's normal for me because I have mood swings. Um, and but I didn't recognize my body then. But I did recognize my body every time I have an astral projection. Anyway,
That's
but I
interesting and news to
yeah.
me. I'm gonna put a little pin in that. But you mean you didn't
Yeah.
it looked the same, but you didn't recognize it? You almost felt like detached? Like what is that?
I don't know. I wish
Okay,
I
you know
did
what?
know.
Wait. That's not new. Now that I think about it, it's not new. For a lot of people who
Huh?
do have an NDE, OBE, because remember it's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. When they're
Yeah.
out, a lot of times they look at it and they're actually confused. They're like, "Oh, who's that person?" They look like they're in a lot
Yeah.
of pain.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, right. I've had OBE one time when I was in a car accident. My car started flipping and it felt like time slowed down. And then it like all I thought was I knew I wasn't gonna die, but I was like, I hope I don't get stuck upside down. And but everything was fine, like even the banana that flew out the window didn't bruise, so we were all fine, except the car was wrecked. It was like crunched in like the passenger seat all the way down. So if I had a
Wow.
passenger, they'd be dead. But I didn't, so everything was okay. But that was freaky. And I remember getting out of the car and just like I couldn't feel my body, and like I could, but I snapped out of my body, and I could look down, and I didn't recognize anything, but I'm like, whoa, what is happening?
Mm.
And I was like, am I dead? That was a question. I knew I
Again?
wasn't gonna die, but I'm like, am I dead? Is this death? Am I a ghost? What's going on here? Like I had no idea.
Wow.
I think it was like for me it was a trauma response. And I know some people have it because of a trauma response. Um, but not everybody, of course. Some people, you can just have an out of body experience during like a meditation or something if you're willing yourself to do it. Um, yeah, out of body experience is fun to do, but I mean, I don't know. I don't want to do it because I was told not to do it. Um,
So
but it was
let's
like,
stay on that for a second because this is like
okay,
something that people question, especially people who are truth seekers or going into the spiritual world or understanding. There are even people, even now, who are like making the rounds of showing people this is how you leave your body. Like, come on, like get
yeah,
out. You want to have this freedom. You want to be able to like travel to all these great places, and have all this knowledge. And I am kind of on the fence about it. I myself don't even know. Like I've had an OBE as a child. I had hurt my head and I was looking down at my body.
Well,
So yes, that's probably why I'm a little weird too. Like I have been out of
you
this.
snapped right out, honey. Yeah.
That's right out. But so so I wonder because I've heard some NDE or OBE experiences where they are told by their guides or angels, get back in. What are you doing? You don't belong out your body. Stop
Right.
doing
I
it.
hear that too.
But
And
then
I didn't believe it until I did. I
there's
experienced it.
there's others who like it might be their quote unquote guide who's telling them, hey, let's go for a little ride, you know, and taking them out to like, another, realm or whatever. So
Yeah.
I no idea whether or not it really is safe or not. It's just like everything else. We're gonna have probably more questions than answers at the end of
Yeah.
this.
I feel like it's unsafe for me personally because I know that I've been followed around by these negative entities since I was a kid. Like I remember falling asleep in my bed and there'd be this shadow person watching me sleep. And I remember I told my brother about it and and he's like, "Oh, it's just your eyes playing tricks on you." I'm like, "But it moves and it walks. It looks 3D. Like it
Oh my God.
it scares me."
Yeah. And this is something
And
else we need to stay on because first off, that story about your father, I mean, your father, thank you for sharing. God bless you because I know that that brings up emotion. And I pray, I mean, let's just pray together that he is somewhere, he's in a good place right now. But this
absolutely.
is something that we definitely need to talk about so that people who have similar situations or similar concerns can also just kind of know and think about.
Yeah.
Um, because it seems like I mean, there's a lot that we don't know, but what I for sure know from everything that I've heard and everything I myself have seen is that there is a negative element out there. There are dark energies at the very least, dark spirits, dark beings,
Yeah.
dark, and they're attacking. I don't know if they're attacking because I've heard some stories where it's just somebody from a previous life or their energy, maybe not them, but their energy and that karma, like that kind of whatever is coming at you, or at us, or it could really just be our own dark thoughts, or like you said, dark energy that we
Yeah.
created ourselves that's kind of doing that, or it could just be like demons and and I think that a lot of when they say
All three
demons,
of those. Yeah,
yeah, it
absolutely.
could be all of those, yeah. So or dark aliens and all that kind of stuff. But
We
when
can
it
throw
comes
our
to
energy by accident all the time. I know that when I'm really, really upset and sad, my phone stopped working. And there was another guy that I met online. He was like, "Yeah, I remember one time I got really, really mad and my lawnmower stopped working because I was pushing it.
yeah,
It just started on flames." I'm like, "Whoa, dude."
hmm
But yeah, you can definitely throw your energy for sure.
we are so much more powerful than we know. But what concerns me is just that we because of all the religions that we have here and they have their benefit, but then the biggest, besides the separation and the hate and all that kind of stuff, the biggest negative is that it suppresses our true reality, it would seem. And
Hmm.
people just don't get it. I mean, you had a few instances of that, like with your mother not fully believing that, it was an NDE because of reincarnation.
Right.
Like I was just telling Angela, reincarnation is such a true thing to me. Like even when I was Muslim, like I was Muslim when I grew up, even in the height of that, like while still being in that religion, I fully agreed and believed that reincarnation was a reality because it's just you know and actually from something I read in the Quran, but that's a whole nother story. But
Oh wow. Yeah.
but just as in like I guess a download, like for some reason something just explained to me like you've been here before, like you've been
Mhm.
around, you're eternal, like just get it in your head. So I just hope that more people understand that because as soon as you know that you've lived before and you've been other colors and you've been other sexes and you've
Mhm.
been handicapped, you've been full bodied and well and you've been this and that, whatever, you've been good, you've been bad, as soon as you
Mhm.
know you've been everything, the judgment starts to just, you stop judging, and then you
Mhm.
just start trying your best to just be more caring and loving and open, to others because you realize that's me or that was me or that could be me, you know.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, the
Absolutely.
idea that he was being tormented by these spirits both while he was alive and then
And
at
his
passing
dad.
over. Yes.
Yeah.
And the importance of, because I've heard this a number of times, the importance of going to that light no matter what. Like just knowing
Yes.
that
Yes.
that um And then there'll be people, of course, who also, if you believe in like the soul trap, and we'll get into that, of course, because I still am I kind of believe in that too. But if you believe in the soul trap and that the whole reincarnation thing is like, managed by archons or dark energies or whatever, um, then you might say, don't go through the light. That's probably the last thing you want to do. But
Maybe that's why
your
spirits run
story,
from it.
I was just saying, but your story kind of to me is one that supports the light is where you need to go so you can move on. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck here. And who wants to be stuck here? You know?
Right.
So,
Nobody. Just here either. You could be stuck in like, I mean, there's different areas that you can get stuck to because people talk about, ethereal. Oh, wait, who is it? George G. Ritchie. He has a book and he talks about the three beings and he talks about different layers of, he calls them realms, different realms of reality that he visited. And one of them was like a city that all of these different people were manifesting that was very similar to Earth, but it wasn't Earth.
mm,
And then he was talking about how there was another realm where there was like a lot of people who loved to study things. They weren't bad people, but they loved to study things so much and they didn't want to have another human life. So they just existed there. They all existed there together, just studying things and everything like that. And he said in his book, I wonder if this is where some of the greatest inventors here on Earth get their ideas.
mm,
And I never felt that was the first time I connected to a person who had a near death experience because it
mm,
just felt true. It felt authentic, because you can get those vibes that you're like, something feels off. No, it all just felt so right. Some of
wow.
the things that felt a little bit off was when he was talking about religion, because I know that religion is mostly man-made and um, influenced not in by the best people. And there's a lot of fear in, especially the Christian religion, there's a lot of fear to control people and to make money. And that's why you can't have reincarnation and all that other stuff in there because like, I don't know. But it's all yeah, it's all about fear. And yeah.
So it sounds like you just naturally kind of had an idea of how to help your father in getting into the light and passing through. You kept repeating. What were you repeating? Remember
Oh,
your
uh, identify with your good.
Yes, identify with your good. So I just wonder because I feel like I've done that for other people, but I'm not entirely sure if it worked or not. But I just wonder if for those of us that maybe have somebody who passed on and we feel like, okay, I feel like they're either haunting, they're sticking around, like they need to move on,
Are they
if there's
feeling,
some,
yeah, why are they sticking around? Are they feeling guilty? Are they feeling
yeah,
scared? Like, or do they just want to see you grow up and everything like that? But like, they can still come and visit you after they've visited the light first. That's what my daughter's great 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 grandparents have done. Obviously they haven't reincarnated because,
yeah.
that how else could they visit my great great
Yeah,
if they're
what I've heard is that and I mean, it's not just I heard. I mean, I've done the research, and like, there's NDEers who say that they, even within just coming out of their body, were able within seconds to separate themselves, like bilocate. So be separate. Like you right now would just separate into like 5 or 10 of you, And if you
wow.
think about it, this is possible because this is what God can do.
Yeah.
Like we are all aspects of God in that same respect, right?
Well, yeah.
So what I've been told is that while they might be able to come and visit us, that they still part of them is still, maybe living another life, another aspect. It's the whole idea of the soul. Remember we were talking about the
Right,
split
like the
soul.
soul split, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but okay, but yeah, but I just hope that for those who have that feeling that somebody might still be lingering for negative reasons, it's not like they're trying to protect or anything like that, and they're visiting. I think it's best to try to maybe do a meditation where you're just kind of like just telling them, don't be afraid, it's okay, and then go to God, basically, go to the Creator.
Right, right. And sometimes the family member doesn't know that just hanging around without going to the light, they think going to the light, they're just going to be like washed away and they're not going to be able to return again, Or they think like, I have to be here. I have to watch you. Like George G. Ritchie talks about in his book, he talks about how a mother would not leave her son's side and she just kept berating him with just words and words and words and yelling at him. And obviously he couldn't hear her. But yeah, it's just
So you said that the song Angels on the Moon is what helped to jog your memory of this whole experience, right?
Yep.
So in your mind, are they angels? Like, do you believe that they're angels, or you believe that they just took on the form that you wanted to see or would feel
I
comfortable?
Yeah, I think they took on the form that I would feel comfortable with seeing, um, because they're just pure energy. So if they showed up to me looking like their true form, maybe I wouldn't understand. To show me that uh, I need to talk to them because it would hold my attention. And, as a 10-year-old, I had already been exposed to religion and I knew that angels were something that can be trusted and are calming. Um, and yeah, and so that I could trust it. And, they're pure energy. So if they showed up in their true form of just pure energy, they might look like a ball of light. And if I see a ball of light, I'm not going to think, oh, I should talk to that. So they have to show up as something that I'm like, oh, maybe I should interact with that. What
Mhm.
is that? Um, and I've sorry, side note, I've had people be like, well, how do you know they weren't demons pretending to be angels? And I'm like, because I've actually met negative entities pretending to be very friendly. And one of them was trying to leech off of me, and so I had the experience of it staring directly at my face, like this close to me. And here Angela has actually seen the exact same being. And I never told her about this experience until she was like, I'm seeing this being following around one of my kids. This is what it looks like. And I'm like, what color, like what does its hair look like, so it had like a blonde bob cut, and it had blue eyes, and there was like light coming out of its eyes, but it was surrounded, like all around it, its aura, like it didn't have light coming off of it. It had blackness coming off of it, darkness. And around its face was only lit up by the blue light coming out of its eyes, right? And
Wow.
it showed itself to look like a child. I don't know what gender, but it was like this close to my face. And it's like, can I please, like, I've been with you ever since you were a child. Can I please just reattach? Can I be with you? And I'm like,
What?
yeah, right. I know, isn't that? And I'm feeling compassion and I'm feeling love for it. And I'm like, that's very kind of you, but you can either go to the light or you can leave me. You are not allowed to attach to me. I do not want you attached. And it's like, oh, please, like it had like this face, like the puppy dog eyes, like, please,
Oh,
like it's trying to play off of my pain.
vampire.
Right.
Vampire.
I know. And I'm like, you can't. And then it started getting angry. And it was like, but I've been with you since you were a kid and I'm never going to stop trying. And I'm like, okay. And so I started saying mantras to myself. And I'm like, I don't even remember what the mantras were, but I was just trying to like up my confidence because I could feel that this thing was starting to turn mean and say mean things to me to like make me feel scared, or like it's never like anything I say, it will not respect. And I was like, nope. And then I was saying because I know that the higher our confidence and the higher, like if we feel happy,
Yeah.
these things they can't, our aura is stronger if we're
Yeah.
happy
High
or
vibe. High vibe.
gratitude. Exactly. And so no fear. Fear makes it easy for them to get in. And so I was like, I know that. And so I'm going to do this. And so I start doing that and it gets even more angry. And I'm like, okay, I realize. And it says, you're not strong enough. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And so then I felt fear, and then I felt it get like closer to me, and I was like, nope. And then I started saying, so I grew up being Catholic. And so I'm sure like any mantra, asking angels for help or asking beings of light and love for help, I call them beings of light and love because they are made of light and their presence is very loving. And so I start praying the guardian of angel prayer, or yeah, guardian angel prayer is what it's called for the Catholic religion. But I'm sure you could ask for angels, just angels.
Yeah.
But for me, that's what would work at the time. And I start saying it. over and over, and I tweak it a bit to match how I feel would be more authentic. And so I'm like, angels of love and light, please come to my sides, to light, to guard, to rule, to guide me, to protect me. And as soon as I said to protect me, and I said angels in the prayer, it's angel of light, guardian of love, whatever, or guardian of whatever. But I tweaked it because I'm like, no, I need multiple angels. I don't just want one. I want like as many as possible because
I
this
want
thing
a
is
troop.
awful. Give me a troop. And so immediately I see, as soon as I say to protect me, come to my sides now. And I see two, what color were they at first? I'm sorry, they were blue, like a light, like kind of like turquoise blue, kind of like the picture behind you, like that or something. Like sky blue, I guess. And they come
That is
to
a
each side.
protective color, and that's why I have it back there. Just
Is
FYI,
it?
yeah, yeah.
I didn't know. I don't know what color. I didn't know that. That's cool. Okay, well, great. They come to my sides and they're that color.
Hmm.
And then immediately I feel like so much more powerful. And I'm like, oh yeah, all right, it's happening now.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I gotta keep saying this prayer though. And I'm like, protect me now. Please help protect me. Please protect me. Please, help the spirit. And because I can't do it. It's not leaving me alone. Protect me. And then their light starts to grow. And as their light starts to grow, I feel like it's just kind of like it's blending with my energy and my own aura. I see it turn white, and all three of us are just white.
Hmm.
Like our color turns white, and it's blended together pretty much, I think, because everything goes white. And I see this being flee, and I all I see is white. And then in my mind's eye flashes the note like yellow. So it's like a yellow and color. And sorry, I'm getting gassy again. I love my life. Right. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's there's
They're
beautiful.
here. They're here.
They're here. And I see the numbers. It was 5 5 5 5 5 5 5 5. So the number 5 9 times, and it's flashed in front of me, be in black number fives on top of a yellow background, and that's all I see in my mind's eye. And then with that, I
Oh.
feel like, and there's white around the yellow and the number, and then
Hmm.
I feel this sense of validation, of peace. And then I hear them like a man's voice say, don't be afraid to call on us. Anytime that you call on us, we will come.
Hmm.
Always ask, like just ask for us. And when you feel this feeling of peace and love, we will be, that's us with you. And I'm like, whoa, and I just felt so rejuvenated, and just I felt fantastic after that. But then I don't know how long it was after that, but that's when Angela said that she saw that being falling around her head. And she and I was immediately like, oh my goodness, I got like chills up and down my arms. And I'm like,
Hmm.
that's not, I'm
Now
like, I defeated this thing before. We're going to do it again. And we started praying together. And she said that as she was praying, like the lights were flickering in her house. I don't know.
Oh.
But I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I asked angels
Yeah.
for help. We just have to ask angels for help, like, or
Now,
whatever they are.
now, just so people understand, when we're saying Angela, we mean my previous guest, Angela Comfort. She was the pre-birth experience. So she mentioned a being, and I just don't know if it's the same one you're referring to, but she said it looked like the bankers on Harry Potter, like those kind of like, yeah. So I don't know if it's the same one, if it was a different situation, whatever. But she did say that there was one like that was attacking her and her child, one of her children.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's how did the whole thing start though? Like, was that during a meditation, or did you like you seeing it from your mind's eye, or were you actually seeing an actual like, you know,
Yeah,
like
no, that's actually a really great question. So I was actually trying to lay down for a nap, and then I felt my whole body get paralyzed. And so it was like, I guess you could say it was kind of like in that dream state almost. And but the only thing that I could move were like my lips And so I started mumbling my words out because I was like, that's the only thing I can move right now. So that's the state that I was in, that awake or sleep state. And then I got paralyzed and I couldn't move. Um, and I've had that happen before one other time. And maybe you could help me understand this. But there was a time, sorry, I'll get back to what we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about. But I was laying down in my bed and I got like I rarely get paralyzed, but like 3 times now I've been paralyzed. And like I got paralysis, and I I felt something stepping onto the bed, and my body being paralyzed kind of rolled into whatever was stepping on the bed. And I had so much fear. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel that this is friendly. And I started like I was like, you're not welcome here. And this was before, I started embracing spirituality and actually exploring it more. And so I had no idea what to do other than I'm like, okay, well, if evil exists, then good exists. So I'm like, okay, do I
Mm-hmm.
call on angels? And I was like, I'm like, only Jesus's angels are allowed here. Like I didn't know what I was saying, but I'm like, you're not
Like
allowed here.
somebody help, somebody
Yeah,
help.
I'm like, you're not allowed. I'm like, and so I don't know how long that went on for, but it felt like a long time. And then I finally felt calm, and I felt the pressure on the bed lift off, and I could finally move my body again. So I don't know how that thing made itself dense enough to step on the bed. I don't know what that is. And I don't know if
Wow.
you, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, for starters, the sleep paralysis, from what I've heard, is that that's how a lot of people begin an out of body experience. Like they have this the sleep paralysis, or they can't move anything, and that's usually a sign that you have the potential at that point to leave your body.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if there is something, because I mean, when people have extraterrestrial experiences, they can also have that paralysis as well, because some of these entities have that power, or some kind of whether it's a power or a spiritual power or tech, but they have something that can completely make you paralyzed, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's always concerning to me when people who are not spiritual are having these negative experiences. The positive ones are great, fine. Talk
Hmm.
to angels, talk to Jesus, have fun, go at
Yeah.
it.
Fun.
But when it's these negative beings that, too many stories about these shadow people just sitting there watching people sleep. Like, what are you getting from that, first off? Like, what are you
Right.
doing?
It's not good. It's not good.
And it's like, are they affecting your dreams? Like, what are they actually, or are they taking
Yeah,
your
they do.
energy? Because
Yeah.
that's another big thing, is that they're kind of vampires. If you think about it in a certain way, it's kind of like that being that was trying to attach itself to you, or was already
Hmm.
attached. It's like, hey, I know you since you were a kid. You're like, who are you? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it sounds like they, that's how they eat, because, and this is like, obviously, this a lot of things I don't, even when I'm saying that I know something, I'm going by what I've heard,
Hmm.
stories, or my own experience. But even then, I put a big, I don't know. I don't know. None of us know anything. Let's just be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
from what I've experienced and what I've researched, um, these beings, because they have uh, either been pushed away from the creator, and by creator, I mean the creator of all. I'm not talking about any under creators or whatever, the creator of everything. So they've been pushed away for certain reasons, or they've left for certain reasons, and so they cannot receive that energy anymore. And because of that, they are using us as like batteries.
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's and
Hmm.
that's why it's not like he wanted to hang out with you, because I mean, granted, you're fun. I could see somebody wanting to hang.
You're right.
But that's not why. They're trying to stick to you because they want to eat. They want to live.
Uh-huh.
And you
Hmm.
don't want that, because while they're eating, they're sitting there telling you some crazy stuff about you, like just bringing down
Right.
your energy. And so I just hope that people realize that. um and I don't have any or all the answers, but I just think that we in general, is something I do myself, you need to every day be doing things to protect yourself and your family
Hmm.
spiritually. And
Hmm.
again, this is where kind of, some religions might do this. Like, I know my grandmother, she was Christian, but she was also very spiritual. And so she knew all about the dark, the demons and this and that, whatever. And she was always praying over us. Prayer is so important. If you're not
Yeah.
praying at least, I'm going to just say at least once, because I pray
Yeah.
all day. But if you're not
In the
praying at
morning.
least
Me
once,
too. Me too. Yeah. Anytime I
at
feel
least,
anything. kind of off. I'm just like, protect this house, like,
I,
and every night I pray over my kids, and I'm just like,
mhm.
my angels of love and light, protect these children. And I'm like, your guardians, whoever yours are, I don't know, just like, please protect. And I keep praying it. And there was one night that I was like feeling kind of off, and I kept praying like for a long time, and it felt like I had like a tug and like a energy, and it felt so strong, like I was connecting to my son, and I was connecting to my daughter, and I was connecting to my boyfriend, and it felt like that energy, like a string, like attached to them.
Mhm.
And it was such a deep, and there was so much love. Like I started crying because I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much love
Oh.
right now. And I'm like, this has to be those angels, because it's the same amount of love that I felt, around them. I'm like, maybe they are around me because I'm asking them to be around me and protect us.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. No, I pray throughout the day, but especially if you have any time to, just like do it in the morning and then do it right before
Yeah.
bed. 'Cause that's when you're most susceptible, if
Yeah.
that's how I'm saying it.
And I love that I love the light workers, the monks, the nuns, the people who sit, and pray. And not to say you have to be that for me. I do the same as well, but the people who pray for the world, you know what I mean? The people who
Yeah.
pray for strangers, the people who pray for their enemies. I mean, that's big too.
Oh
Oh,
my God, yeah. Yeah.
because when it comes down to it, you really see what's happening. We need it. We need it. And prayer is so powerful. It is probably the most powerful thing. That and intention. And your story shows that as well. It's many times during your story that you said that even just the intention, like you didn't really probably have to step in that river. You could have just said, I want to go back to my body. Let's go. It's time.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think that was just like a more so a comfort thing for this 10-year-old who had no idea what was going on.
Yeah. And that's another big thing too, like about your story, like just the fact that a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old can have these experiences. I've heard where they're like even younger and they are leaving their body and being attacked by dark energies. That terrifies.
Right.
Like there's not much that scares me, and I know because I know fear, you can't fear, but that bothers me. I'm not even gonna say scary, but it bothers me to think that some baby out there could have had an accident or got hurt and is just floating out there, and one of these dark energies is attacking them.
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah, trying to scare it into
yeah.
or away from something. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, I think for me, it was like the curiosity and wonder were my biggest allies, because I could have been stuck here if I wasn't curious about, what's greater than me, what's greater than what's around me right now. And I
Mm,
think kids have a lot of that. And I think that's probably why kids are so, connected still, and they're not really judgmental of things too much. But there was like a 6-year-old near-death experience that I read of this little boy who got hit by a car, and he was dying. And then he did die on his way to the hospital. And he said that he was like, there was like this negative entity that like was trying to freak him out and be like, you're a naughty boy and you need to come with me. And he was like, am I naughty? I mean, I guess my mom says I'm bad sometimes, so I must be
oh my
bad.
God.
And that's why it's so important to identify with your good, because we are naturally at our core good. Like even negative entities have that light within them. Like so many hypnosis healers explain, they're when these negative entities look within themselves, they see that core of light, of love, of goodness,
Mhm.
but they choose not to embrace it. Therefore they keep choosing bad things, and that makes them not that powerful, and that's why they need to leech off of us. But yeah,
And
I mean,
I've also heard the way to get rid of them is by creating a loving environment, by sending love to them. Like it really,
yeah,
and
they
if you
hate it.
ever
They
had
hate your love. That's right.
if you've ever like, and I don't know if it's just my experience, but if you've ever known somebody who was like really extra sour, and I mean it's just is what it is, because I've actually spoken to people that I thought, oh my God, you were just like, not to say the worst, but you were just so angry and evil and dark. Like why? And so I
Uh-huh.
actually spoke to somebody that I felt was like that. Um, and I found out her story was so horrendous, like horrendous. And you talk about child abuse,
Right.
horrendous. And so it made perfect sense. Like this is what that created. Like she let it get to her. She let it mold her into this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I get
And
the chills. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm getting goosebumps too. Sorry, but um, but yeah, so it's like so even the darkest, this is what makes me believe that demons are human spirits that just went really to the dark side, and not to say just
Hmm.
human because we're in a team, galaxies teeming with life. So it's just beings that just let the dark side completely take over and just said the hell with the light. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
but so it makes me wonder because I know that when I've known people who were like that, and you kind of say, okay, like, hey, sweetie, or hey, honey, or you do something
They go,
nice for them,
ugh, and they
like,
cringe.
what is this? What is this? What are you saying to me? And I
Hmm.
feel like it's the same with those beings. Like the easiest way is, like you said, no fear. Do not show fear for even a second, no matter how
Hmm.
afraid you
And
are.
always show love, like
And
you
then
say.
just send them love, send them love, send them love, and they will scatter, absolutely scatter.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and the real big dogs, the people who really, and this is not something we all should be doing because it could be potentially very dangerous. But the big dogs, like the ascended masters, like those are the ones I feel like can take those spirits and help to gradually pull that light out and bring them back to love. You know,
Right.
uh, 'Cause we don't want them roaming out there forever like that either.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
tough, like especially because so many of them either they lie about being afraid of the light or they are afraid of the light. Like the one that I told you that I was talking to was like, I'm scared to go to the light. And I was like, well, I can go with you. And when I said, I can go with you, I can bring you to the light, it pulled back and was like, no, I know, right? I'm like,
So
okay,
this
then you can't stay with me.
And this makes me wonder too about what these beings are, because this is a question. So let me try to get back to questions. Again, you and I can talk all day, clearly.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder because at one point during your experience with the beings, I'm starting to lose my thought here, so it must be important. Um, when the being said that I created you, I mean that first of all, I never heard this in any of your previous podcasts. So I was just sitting there while you're talking, like, oh, like what is
Right.
happening?
Right.
So
It was like
this
I
is like
molded your energy, you know?
what? Okay, so when it said that, it made me think, okay, first off, who are you? And see, that's
Right.
what I'm saying. I would have asked this question for sure. Like, hey, I love you, great, I feel the love, but who are you? You created me, I need to
I
know who
didn't
you are,
think.
you know? But
Well,
it
immediately I thought, oh, this must be like a god or something, but like it's not like the Christian God or anything. I didn't want to question, because when and that's very normal for me. If I'm in near an authority figure, I don't want to like pressure them or like make them angry at me, and that's why, as soon as it was like, I know you, I know who you are, I know everything about you, and I still love you. And I was like, but I'm not worthy to be in your presence because I am not perfect. I'm not, and
Mhm.
I'm like, if you're God, I can't be in your presence. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not worthy. Um, but yeah, anyway, I'm distracting
but
you
I
from yours. I
but
forgot
I
my thought now.
no, but I love, but I feel like they're here with us because when you were telling your story, I felt, and I don't feel this all the time, but with some indie ears, I can feel the love energy. And it's not like, it's nothing weird, no weirdness. It is
Yeah.
the actual divine love. It's a certain type of love energy. I can't
I
explain it
almost
any better.
cried.
Yes. So I felt it and I was like, okay, so they're watching, they're paying attention to this for starters. But I I love the story because, and I don't want to mess with it too much, but like I said, I'm a truth seeker, so I'm going to ask and make sure that it really is of the light and stuff. But it felt good, it felt right, it did feel like it was true. But if this being is a fragment of God or something of that nature, because it just because of my background as well, it's hard for me to believe like it's actual God when it can't leave the moon. Like as soon as you're telling me you have a restriction, then you're not the creator of all. Like I have very high
Yeah. Well,
high
that's what I wonder too. I'm like, is
yeah,
this like one of God's workers? And like,
like an angel.
I don't know.
That's
Like,
kind of
yeah, I'm like, is it an angel? Is it one of his workers that helps, create this life? Like that's what he was referring to. It's like he's like, I created this life for you. We chose your parents together. We chose what you wanted in your life. We
yeah,
did this together. And so that's, what he was saying. And so I don't want to put a brand on
yeah.
who this is, but at the same time, I'm always asking the question, who the heck are those three? What do they do? And
Yeah.
so that's why I absolutely love that you're digging and digging and digging and scratching at it, because I want to too. Like, believe me, that's why when I meet
So,
people who have met the three themselves, I'm like, what did they say to you? What did you ask who they were? Like, not
yeah.
everybody seems to think I should ask who they are. I
Oh,
don't
oh,
know
so that's
why.
what I wanted to go back to that. Yeah. So I feel like that attitude of that, I mean, as a 10-year-old, it makes sense. Like you're saying, that makes perfect sense. If you're a dutiful, good child, that you're going to feel like I shouldn't be asking too many questions. That's how adults expect children to act, right? But it's
Mhm.
also like when it comes to Christianity and like, let's say the Old Testament and how very much that being, whoever that being was, I don't believe it was God, but the being that says it's
Sure.
God in the Old Testament, terrifying, by the way.
Oh, yeah, no, it
Um,
didn't say it was God. It just said we created this life, like
yeah,
you planned this with me.
yeah. And
And I was like, oh
it
my
makes
God, you made my life.
it makes me think like overall I would say I like that you say maybe one of God's helpers because it sounds like from what I've heard in other NDEs that we see it one very weird way where we just think that all this stuff just magically happens, but we're in a physical realm and it's not just a physical realm. We're like among many physical realms. Even the astral realm is a physical quote unquote realm. Like you're still seeing physical structures. You're not just seeing abstract colors and lights and movement.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that in this physical realm, then we need to have physical things that we can see. And so I like the idea that even when you were telling me that I don't think that river was for everybody. Like maybe not everybody sitting there would have seen that river. It was just for me. And so
Yeah.
this God that we have no idea, we can't really define, and I would never even try. Like that's one thing I would definitely not try
Yeah.
to. Seems like it's really way too powerful, but it has the capacity at the very limited capacity, the very small thing that it can do is to make sure that we all have an experience, a physical, visual, hearing, audio
Mhm.
type experience. And while we wouldn't just say that this being is God, is doing a job or is doing the work of God, maybe. And
Mhm.
that's the positive side. Like if it really is all love and it's no weirdness, you know, and the good side, that's what it is. It's kind of like exactly what they say that messengers or the angels are messengers. Like they're here to do the work of God
Mhm.
because God's not going to be, running around doing all this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then I mean, I'm telling you, the feeling is so good. I don't even want to go to the negatives because the negative would be, of course, the moon, soul trap. That these could be, but
I think
like you
I just
said,
went to the moon because I just loved the idea of the moon ever since I was a kid. And so that's why when I said that I thought that I made it to the moon, I don't know 100% that that actually was the moon or if it was just me manifesting something.